It's in the early morning before the sun comes over the hills, and I'm riding my bicycle. Wait. There's something that I want to address today. I was already in the sports club this morning, and so I did some exercises and I played some basketball, and then I went into the locker room, and the TV was blasting there, and there were these sports journalists who were talking very animated about the basketball game. And it's amazing how intense they can get in these conversations, because I never listen to it, but I hear it whenever I'm in the locker room. And this time I heard one of them say something that was kind of like, well, you know, my philosophy is we need to have a team that has the skills to put the ball exactly where we want it to go. and supposedly that's his philosophy. I had to laugh because, you know, that ball, of course, needs to go in the net. And somehow it's got to get there. And the only way to accomplish that is with people who know how to do that. You know, it kind of reminds me of the Netherlands, where I come from. In Holland, soccer is, of course, a game that many people are into, and I used to be into it too when I was young. And there's the famous saying, which is kind of a remark about. I believe it was one of the famous soccer trainers who once said that. If I'm correct, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe it was one of them who once said, "No, the ball is round." Yeah, really. The ball is round, whatever. But in any case, you gotta kick that ball around and make sure that you score a goal, and preferably a couple of goals, so that you win the soccer match. And the same thing is true, of course, with the basketball. You want to get that ball in the hoop of the opposite team, and then you're a winner. But that particular instance, it reminded me of how many million people are so enthralled with sports, huh? Or with entertainment, or anything. Of course, that you could say that distracts them from their daily sorrows, or their daily struggles, or their daily conflicts. And but yeah, I believe there's something more to it. Yeah, of course you can say, oh yeah, people seek some sort of oblivion in entertainment. Yeah, like in the old days, there was in Roman Empire, there was, of course, the Colosseum, where the gladiators were fighting among themselves and with big animals, and yeah, that was another form of entertainment for the crowd. And you give them that, and you keep them pacified, so to speak. You give them food and games, and then they don't complain, and then you can go about oppressing them or whatever. You can go about ruling them. And of course, this is how empires have existed and how rulers have ruled to this very day. But I wanted to say something today about that tendency that people have to want to be busy with something simple. Like many people watch a tennis match, for instance. I mean, what is a tennis match? There's these two people who are hitting a ball over a net, and that's about it. and then one of them, of course, is better because he does a better, or she does a better job at hitting that ball back. And millions of people are enthralled with that. And there's golf matches where we have to hit a ball on a golf course and try to get that ball to go into that hole. I mean, it's so silly if you just consider that. And then there's all these people who are totally excited about this because, somebody is such a good golfer. He can hit that ball so well and so far and so precise. And of course, there's darts, and then there's pool championship, and there's but what I'm trying to get at here is that people like to watch something simple, and they also like to listen to a simple song, or perhaps also be part of a simple ritual. That's what people do in their religious practices. They adhere to these very simple rules, or these particular habits, and it gives them some comfort, because that is, of course, the reason why people do this. And now I'm coming to my topic, because why don't people, if that is so important to them, to have simplicity instead of all this complexity? Because we're overwhelmed by complexity and everything is so divided, and so everybody has an opinion, and it's all just so conflicted and so contentious these days. And we seek some amusement, or we seek some entertainment, we seek something simple, somebody cracking a crude joke, or some sort of a sitcom series where people express what everybody expresses and what everybody is struggling with, and they exaggerate it, and they sort of emphasize it, and they sort of just drag it out. And then all of a sudden it is funny because, this is what everybody does, and what everybody is constantly imprisoned by, constantly preoccupied with, constantly intimidated by, constantly hurt by, because, it's also about that, although we don't get much into that. We're traumatized by it, we're hurt by it, we are wounded by it, we are destroyed by it. By what? By the things we create with our way of talking. Our way of talking, disembodied language, I've said about it many times, and I'll say it again. Disembodied language is the way of talking which goes on everywhere, where people speak, but they don't hear their own sound while they talk. They don't listen to themselves while they speak in disembodied language. So, in disembodied language, presumably, it is a matter of listening to others. Getting others to listen to you, or you are listening to others. But listening is, per definition, listening to others. And speaking too. Yeah, speaking in disembodied language is speaking with others. Yeah. So both speaking as well as listening is a matter of being busy with others. And of course there is the speaker, the speaker who speaks, and there's the listener who listens. Morning. And so we have separated literally in our conceptualization the speaker from the listener. The speaker speaks and the listener listens. And that's disembodied language. But in embodied language, that's what I'm talking about. A speaker listens to him or herself. A speaker is himself or herself the listener. And it's very simple because that is the essence of, good morning, that is the essence of correct use of language. It is incorrect to assume that the listener is someone else as the speaker. Of course you say that, and we all adhere to that way of talking in which the listener is somebody else than the speaker. But that's a wrong way. That's a problematic way. That is a tragic way. That is a profoundly troubling way of dealing with language. The way of dealing with language which causes all our problems. And which causes tremendous complexity. We can never figure it out. We can never ever, no matter how much research we have, no matter how much data we have collected. And why? Because it is not about these data. It's not about all these extrapolations that we can make from all this data and all the interpretations that we can give to all these data points on a graph. And that we then can talk about averages of groups where a control group and an experimental group have particular data points, and we then compare these averages to other averages, but we never get to what it is for us individually, because that deals with whether or not we begin to acknowledge that we were not listening to ourselves in disembodied language. We never have listened to ourselves. So here you go. You're listening to me. I'm talking with you. I'm not talking at you. I'm talking with you because I'm listening to myself. You're listening to a person who's listening to himself. And you can begin to feel like, wow, I understand what he's saying. And of course you can understand what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is the absolute truth that has never been acknowledged, that has never been articulated, because it couldn't be articulated with your usual disembodied language. Only someone like me can articulate this obvious truth. The obvious truth that if you do not listen to yourself while you speak, then presumably the speaker and the listener are separate, and then all kind of consequences follow, which are negative, because it is the inaccurate way of using, of perceiving our language. The speaker is not separate from the listener. The speaker is the listener, always. And you only find out about that if you take the time to actually talk with yourself. If you begin to actually verify what I'm saying. Now, that's all. So the complexity that is created, the problems, the tension, the frustration, the anxiety, the divisiveness, all of that is created by disembodied language. It's not created by embodied language. if we have embodied language, if we use our language correctly, yeah, there are many implications of listening to ourselves while we speak, which are logically, plausibly coherent. Yeah. For instance, the notion that all language is overt, that there is no covert language, it follows from us speaking with ourselves and listening to ourselves. I mean, how can anyone deny that when you speak, you produce a sound? That sound can be heard. But if you listen to your inner voice, you're just imagining. Of course you are just imagining. Because there is nothing to be heard. There's no sound being produced. So you're just fooling yourself by believing in having a mind, by believing in having inner language. It's just not true. And it's just a matter of time before we finally are going to find out about this. And before we are finally going to realize, like, wow, so we have all the time, all these many, many years of research, because there's plenty of research about communication, but this is not to be found by the usual research where we're dealing with groups. No, this is only going to be found if you as an individual are going to explore what this is. So, and then, yeah, this is why I'm giving you this whole explanation, why I started with this story, the story about the basketball team and the commentator of the basketball who said, "Oh yeah, we need to have a team. My philosophy is we need to have a team who has the skill set to put the ball where we want it to go." Yes, exactly. That's right. What a great philosophy. Yeah. And you know what? I have another philosophy. If I want to go and walk somewhere, I will just do whatever I can to keep my body up, so that I don't fall down. And look here, I'm riding my bicycle. See that? And I'm holding my steering wheel. And so my philosophy is I keep riding my bicycle because I'm pedaling and I'm holding my steering in my hand. And yeah, I'm keeping my balance. Oh my God, see that? Oh, that's so good. Oh yeah. So no, that's this great philosophy. And depending on where I go, that's the direction in which I will go, and I will reach my goal if I keep steering in the right direction. Anyways, we all love simplicity, right? But why don't we have the simplicity of our language? Yeah? And whenever people talk about simplifying things, they're always objecting because, oh, no, we can't do that. It's way more complicated than that. Oh, no. And we will endlessly distract each other from making things simple. Yeah? And we're endlessly downplaying simplicity as if it is not necessary, as if it is too easy, too good to be true, as if it is not important actually, but hey, wasn't there in science a particular recipe, if you will, a particular habit to make things as simple as possible? Yeah, the Occam's razor. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Occam's razor. That is that if you formulate a thesis, that is just a scientific principle. That if you formulate a scientific thesis, you should use as little words as possible, so that it is put as succinctly as it can, and that there's no misunderstanding possible, and therefore, it becomes easier to verify. Well, I've got a very good parsimonious, because that's called the law of parsimony. Yeah, I've got a very good parsimonious, what is it, principle here for you. If you speak in such a way that you like to hear what you say, you are on your way. You are free. You are a free individual. Yeah, you express your individually lived experience correctly. And if you do not do that, if you speak with disembodied language, you do not listen to yourself, no, but you do speak about your individually lived experience, but with the wrong kind of language. Well, what happens then? You are conflicted, you are troubled, you cannot express yourself correctly, and consequently all kind of problems arise, all kind of complications occur. And that's the world we live in, and don't tell me it's otherwise. So here, this is the challenge. Are you going to step away from your golf game? Are you going to step away from your football match or your soccer match or whatever it is, any sport, for your entertainment? Are you going to step away from everything that is distracting you? Yeah, from this? Yeah. Are you going to verify for once that you can actually talk with yourself and listen to yourself? Because you talk now in such a way that listening becomes possible. You talk with yourself, there's nobody else. Yeah? You realize that talking with others was making listening impossible. This is a humongous thing to recognize for yourself. That you realize, like, wow, so I couldn't listen to myself because in disembodied language, everybody wants other people to listen to them. So you cannot listen to yourself. No, that's right. And disembodied language and embodied language, they don't go together. They are mutually exclusive. They are binary, as we say. Yes, they are absolute. You either listen to yourself or you don't. No, and you do not listen to yourself if you are influenced by and conditioned by and unknowingly involved in the way of talking in which you do not listen to yourself. You cannot all of a sudden step out of that. And if you do that, if you begin to sit with yourself and you begin to talk with yourself and you begin to say, like, wait a second, but of course I can listen to myself. And then you're on your own. Then you are alone. Here, wait, I go and walk a little bit and talk about that while walking. Then you're on your own. And then you talk by yourself. And then you say, wow, it's easy actually to talk like this on my own. And it's easy to listen to myself and to talk with myself on my own. And I get clear on what I want to say if I am talking out loud with myself alone. And why wasn't I clear when I talked with others? Oh, I wasn't listening to myself. I was trying to convince others. I was trying to be understood by others. I was trying to be accepted by others. Oh, but here I am, just talking by myself. I understand myself. I accept myself. I am in touch with myself. I hear myself. I listen to myself. It's so simple. Yeah. So maybe people can tap into this tendency to want something simple, and maybe there's something which is not necessarily wrong with our need for simplicity. Yeah, because we also need simplicity. Yeah, if we do not have any kind of clarity about what is what, we are just confused. We cannot. We are undecided. We are torn between opposites, and that's what happens. Once you notice the difference between embodied language and disembodied language, once you listen to yourself, you realize, like, wow, I actually want this. And you say this to yourself. And And then when you talk with yourself about your disembodied language and your involvement in disembodied language and how that keeps affecting everybody and how it keeps drawing you in, because that conditioning history is still there, you say, but I don't want disembodied language. Yeah? I never wanted it. And yet I got involved in it involuntarily. Well, there you go. That is how you got identified with the involuntary nature of language, which then also inadvertently results in this whole illusion of inner language, where you imagine to be free by having your own mind, which is just total absurd nonsense, because there doesn't exist any language inside of you. Yeah. Are you going to do it in 2025? I hope you do. And then we will have a cultural shift in 2026. Then we will have embodied language together. Then the N of one, the research, the scientific exploration in which there's only one participant, and that is you, and you do the research on yourself. Yeah, the N of one, the N stands for population. So the population of one is then going to result into something really magnificent. Because if you, by yourself, begin to discover the difference between your disembodied language and your embodied language, you will not only find out that you want to have embodied language and that you do not want to have disembodied language. No, you will also find out that all people want embodied language. So the N of one then transitions into N equals everybody.